air out there. I don't know any of these people. That's our mayor right there. Sit down.
Whatever you want, I guess. refresh my memory how to use this. This is all red now, so.
Yeah, I think when it's red, it's hot.
You just press it. Press it.
Well, press the right one to activate the microphone. It stays activated as long as it's red. And then
What was the left one? What was it doing?
Council President?
That's Parlov. That is Parlov. Oh, Council President. Yeah, we're ready. Let's make this quick.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Pontiac Planning Commission meeting of July 5th of 2023. I would like to introduce who we have here in the room. Here on my far left is Corey Christensen. He's Associate Planner. On my far left is Mark Yandrick, who's our Planning Manager. Next to him is Vernita Duval, who is a fellow Planning Commissioner, as is Mike McGinnis. Tim Shepard. To my far right is Sue Sinclair. Christopher Northcross to my immediate right, and I'm Mona Parlov. I am the chair of the Pontiac Planning Commission. So I would like to call the meeting to order, and we can do a roll call, please.
Sinclair.
Present.
Northcross.
Present.
Parlov.
Present.
Shepard.
Present.
McGinnis.
Present.
Duval.
Present.
And Commissioner Henley has expressed that he had emergency come up, so he let us know early this morning he could not make it tonight, and he apologizes.
Thank you for that. Are there any official communications?
There are no official communications this evening.
Okay. Amendments to the agenda and approval of the agenda. Are there any amendments?
Staff has no additional amendments or additions.
Okay.
I move to approve this evening's agenda as presented.
Second.
Roll call? Or all say aye in favor?
In favor.
All right.
in favor. Aye.
All right, we're all in favor. Now we've got our meeting minutes for review of June 7th. Vernita, do you have any additions or changes?
No, I do not.
Mr. McGinnis?
No.
Mr. Shepard?
No changes.
Ms. Sinclair?
No changes.
Mr. Northcross?
No changes, although I didn't find any meeting minutes.
So this should actually not be on the agenda, and I think we apologize for this. Staff received these, I believe, early today, and so we wanted to give commission enough time. We'll bring these back next month. So.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. And now we have special presentations. Anything that you need to bring up?
Nope.
All right, we will then open up, we'll address our first public hearing, which is application VSA 23-003. The applicant is Steve Rofi on behalf of Lighthouse. It is a right-of-way vacation. The address is 46156 Woodward Avenue.
Good evening. So today's case is for an alley vacation at 11 Hovey. The zoning districts to the west side of the property are C0 and to the east side are C1. This is the second step in the overall process for this applicant in getting their new campus approved. The rezoning that was approved on March 23rd was the first step. So this gives you an idea of the location. It's to the southeast side of the loop. Here's Cottage Street, here's Park Place, and they're requesting this portion of Hovey to be removed. The zoning map is slightly out of date due to the rezonings in March, but the parcels on the west side are correct. Those are zone C0 office business. And the parcels on the east side are zoned C1, I believe. C1 local business. The applicant is proposing a vacation of the street directly to the east of Lighthouse of Michigan's headquarters at 46156 Woodward Avenue. The properties that front along Hovey Street are zoned office business and local business.
And can I correct you there?
Yeah.
So it's actually the opposite. The properties to the west of Hovey are C1, the properties to the east of Hovey are C0.
And the applicant intends to vacate Hovey Street between Park Place and Cottage Street so that they can remove the street and replace it with parking and access for the proposed Lighthouse campus. So the overall street vacation process, first the applicant applies, then they have to go to the Planning Commission. It's your responsibility to make a recommendation then to City Council, who has final say on this matter. These are street views taken in August 2018. One is from Cottage Street looking south. The other is from Park Place looking north. And then the following are the 8 standards for review that we use in all our street vacation applications. I'm not going to read through them all, but I'm going to read through the engineer's response. So the engineer's response to standard 1, the portion of Hovey Street in question currently provides access to Cottage Street, Park Place, and Osmond Street. The homes and businesses in the area would be impacted by the closure, but would have alternate routes relatively close by for alternate access. If the residential parcels on the east side of Hovey Street and north of Park Place are now owned by Lighthouse, there are no other driveways on that section of Hovey Street that would require the right-of-way for access to their parcels. Standard 2, a traffic study analyzing the impact of the right-of-way vacation has not been completed to date, so this assessment cannot be formally completed. The applicant did, however, conduct some preliminary traffic counts to provide information on the current volume of traffic during peak hour conditions on a Thursday and Saturday. The traffic counts show that the volume of traffic on Hovey Street is comparable to the volume of traffic on the adjacent north-south street to the east, known as Center Street. The closure of the section of Hovey Street from Park Place to Cottage Street will force traffic to divert along Park Place to Center Street. The traffic on Center Street during peak hour times would likely be close to double what it currently experiences, increasing from 15 to 18 cars to 28 to 35 cars during peak hour travel. Standard 3, there will likely be an increase in traffic on Park Place and Center Street. The impact of that volume of traffic cannot be determined without a complete traffic study of the existing and proposed uses. Standard 4, the use of the section of Hovey proposed for abandonment could have an impact on the adjacent residential buildings as a result of increased traffic and activity on the site. However, no data was provided to this department on the proposed hours of operation of the expanded facility, and a traffic study has not been completed to date, so this item cannot be properly assessed at this time. Standard 5, the existing streets surrounding the area do provide sufficient access to all parcels that would normally utilize this right-of-way. The additional travel distance necessary to access these alternate routes is minimal. Standard 6, records of past projects completed on this portion of Hovey Street would require an extensive amount of time trying to locate. It is safe to assume that the city has expended dollars in both the creation of Hovey Street and the ongoing maintenance to the street. We are not aware of any major road reconstruction work that has been completed on this portion of roadway in the last 3 to 5 years. The version of the proposed site plan that was submitted along with this request shows that the applicant intends to keep access to their property on Cottage Street and near the proposed area of Hovey Street and Park Place. It is unclear as to whether the fire department has had opportunity to review the proposed geometrics to determine accessibility for their emergency vehicles. Standard 8, the city does have a network of storm sewers that exists along this portion of Hovey Street that would not be able to be abandoned without substantial study relating to rerouting of the storm sewer system along Park Place to Center Street. As part of any right-of-way vacation, an easement would need to be left for operation, maintenance, and repair, as well as ingress and egress. The presence of other utilities, gas, electric, cable, phone, water, or sewer were not shown on the concept plans received. If any of these exist in the area, they would either need to be rerouted or maintain an easement for operation, maintenance, repair, and ingress, egress, similar to the city's requirements for the storm sewer. So all in all, staff's recommendation is approval with 2 conditions. First, Lighthouse completing the traffic study with city engineer approval prior to requesting final approval for the vacation from city council. And two, Lighthouse entering into a road vacation agreement with the city to govern the following items. First, a reverter clause shall be placed on the property that if the project presented in the master plan for the zoning map amendment is not substantially completed within 3 years, the city has the option to dedicate this portion of Hovey Lane. And second, a reverter clause shall be placed on the property that if Lighthouse ever sells the property or properties, the city has the option to dedicate this portion of Hovey Lane. And with that, I have sample motions.
Corey, can I add a few things? Can you go back to the map on some of the previous slides? So thank you, Corey, for that report. That's perfect. Actually, the aerial's perfect. I just want to say, after working with our city engineer reviewing this, there is just an attempt to, we are following these standards of approval. And I think the engineer in this assessment is just wanting to ensure that we are making a full assessment. There are things that can be done, understanding the hours of operation of Lighthouse's campus, understanding utilities and putting necessary easements in. And we've had some preliminary discussions with the applicant on that. I think as part of this, step one was to get traffic counts, and they have completed that. But upon seeing the traffic counts and how many cars would be rerouted. This is a residential street, so this does not have the traffic you would find on Woodward or Auburn or anything like that. But you know, looking at the intersections of where the cars would have to reroute to get down here is something that the city engineer would like to review in a little bit more of a study to provide necessary alternatives for the site. So, and I think the applicant can speak to why they are requesting the vacation this easement related to the project overall. So, thank you.
Thank you. I would like to follow the suggested format here and see if anyone here, as a fellow commissioner, has any questions for staff. Vernita, do you right now? Okay. Michael?
No, ma'am.
Tim?
No questions yet.
Sue?
No questions.
And Christopher, any questions right now?
Yes, will the final decision, will the final package as presented to the city council contain the input from the Waterford Regional Fire Department?
The answer to that would be yes. They have reviewed several rounds of the site plan, and we will review this before it goes to city council.
Okay. And they haven't expressed any problems up to this point?
They have not.
Or have they had any expression of statement of?
I would say generally they've supported the project. There have been, in recent additions, there have been a few changes to the Hovey Street overlay, but it's related to the project as a whole. So they've taken some of the fire department's comments, some of the other agency comments, but I don't think they've seen the latest round, and I think it's important before it goes to city council.
And to be clear, that's the overall site plan. Pertaining
Yep.
specifically to the closure of Hovey Street, we don't have any specific comments from fire.
Correct.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. I don't have any questions either. So if our applicant would like to come to the microphone, please. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Steve Rafi. I'm with Fusco, Schaefer & Pappas Architects, 550 9 Mile Road, Ferndale, Michigan.
Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add to the presentation?
Just briefly, kind of a rehash of our narrative. I don't know if you would be able to put the site plan up, Corey. That would be helpful.
Do you have that up?
I don't have a slide with that.
Oh, okay.
Is this image all right?
Yeah, I guess that gets it close enough. So our overarching goal of this proposal is to consolidate the existing 4-acre Lighthouse campus, which currently sits on each side of Hovey Street to the east and west, between Woodward Avenue and Center, at the south side of Cottage. Lighthouse currently owns and operates all of the existing facilities on the campus as a full service for the local underserved population. The proposal includes the reuse and restoration of the existing 2-story Lighthouse office building, which is at 46156 Woodward, and a 3-story, 54-bed Family Housing and Daycare Center, which is along Cottage Street. It's actually the Lighthouse Path location that's indicated on the current photo, aerial photo. And so the proposed building additions will include,
If you want to be able to point,
oh, that's perfect. Oh, thank you.
it's the line right there.
Okay, so this is our existing Lighthouse office building, which will remain. This is the Family Housing and Daycare Center, which will also remain. The remainder of the parcels that are linked together here are all under Lighthouse purview at this time. Those will all be demolished and be replaced by a consolidation of space, basically for housing as well. The proposed building additions include a one-story social supermarket that will basically position right next to the existing office building, a three-story housing opportunity center, and an attached two-story housing center, which will occur. Housing center will be on this side of the existing building, housing building, and then the dining center will occur here. There's future plans for a potential youth shelter to occur at that building, but that will be potentially just white boxed in at this point. The new parking surface will be added at the central and southern areas of the site. So this area will become predominantly parking area for the housing center. And then we will basically take the Hovey Drive and place a bit of a chicane so that it's not a through way as it is now, but will act as aisle for parking on either side, and service for this side of the property. So the proposal also includes a vacation, as you know, of Hovey right-of-way north of Park Place and south of Cottage. Lighthouse currently owns all the parcels on both sides of Hovey, which right now just services those parcels. Due to the current scenario that is there, we feel that the closure and vacation of this portion of Hovey will not have any major impact on the surrounding residents and businesses. Ample access will remain to the neighborhood to the north, east, and south. We feel that the traffic study that is currently underway will show negligible impact to traffic on the surrounding streets once Hovey is closed. The extension of travel distance necessary to access these neighboring parcels is minimal. I believe 700 feet was indicated, that 350 this way and basically 350 back would put people basically right in the same area they were intending their target parking location. The project engineer has done some initial studies of stormwater and feels that he can make this an attainable function for this site. There are utilities that do run through, and I believe I don't know if you, Corey, if you have the boundary survey that indicates some of the utilities.
Not in a slide, sorry.
Okay, so essentially we have storm, sanitary, there's a water main, and basically overhead lines for electrical access on both sides. And much of that services, again, this immediate area, either side of Hovey. The fire department, through, I think, a number of pre-app meetings that we've had, has seen the proposal, and we have responded to some of their requirements for turning radius and for circulation through the site. I think we've gotten We've worked with them pretty closely. I think we've got to a point now that they will be on board with our proposal. I think that generally covers it. We're kind of in the midst of having the engineer look at the site in total for rerouting of utilities where necessary. We will provide for easements wherever that is a requirement, and we will reroute as necessary at our expense. So that's what I have. I can answer any questions you might have at this point.
Great, thank you for that.
Sure.
I will ask my fellow commissioners if you have any questions for our applicant, Bernita? Okay.
Sorry. We've seen a lot of it before, so I've done some research as well, so I'm pretty clear on what you're trying to do here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. McGinnis, any questions?
To Commissioner Duval's point, we've had this and other elements before us a number of times. I'm looking forward to hearing from those that own property in the vicinity or live nearby. In terms of the practical impact, I will be looking forward to the Waterford Regional Fire Department's feedback and other traffic insights as we get closer to the City Council determination. But that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Shepherd?
Only one question. Do you guys own those two houses yet on the southeast corner? Or is that part of the lot, the property yet, or no? The lower two, east of that, those? Okay, so those are the only two in that square that, okay, just confirming. All right, cool. Good, thank you.
Sue, any questions? No questions. Thank you. Christopher?
No questions.
Thank you. Nor do I have any questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up public hearing, and when we do public hearing, we would like you to approach the podium. Anyone who would like to make a statement or has a question or something you would like to share. Please state your name and address for the record. We have 3 minutes that you'll be able to speak. And please keep your comments to this topic. If you have any questions, we'll write your questions down and we will try and get your answers for you once public hearing has closed. So I will open public hearing, and once we close public hearing, please do not call out questions from the audience. When public hearing is closed, you can no longer speak any comments. So public hearing is open. Please approach the podium and state your name and address. Go to the podium, please.
Thank you. My name is Medhane, and I do have a house on 51 O'Reilly Street. Where is the pen? Is that right? Oh, okay. O'Reilly Street is, I will try to make it, I do have an accent, but I will try to make it clear.
Thank you.
Can you just clarify your address for us for the record?
51 O'Reilly Street.
Thank you. Thank you.
5153 O'Reilly Street. And I don't see it on this map, but I will show you what the inconvenience this one is going to be.
Okay.
Thank you. This is cottage, and this is the subject we are talking about. And we have this is the park, and there is another road, Osman, right on the bottom of this.
Yes.
So if somebody is coming from the north side of the Woodward, they are going to come all the way here, and then they will turn on the left side of Woodward, and they go to Cottage. And this road becomes extremely important for these people who are living in here and those people who are living on O'Reilly Street. Number one, on O'Reilly Street, there is no parking on the right side, on the left side. It's on the right side.
Okay.
So this road, I know this one belongs to the lighthouse, probably this one too, but this one belongs to the public. When this one is closed, they are, not you, they are closing the convenience of these people and these people, because People are coming around and coming in here. They can get there. Then they go back to Osman and they can park right on O'Reilly Street. And there is no park on the left side. There is only parking on the right side. So if you come from this one, go all the way, you cannot park here. You have to go down, make a loop, go back and park. Get to your house in here on O'Reilly Street. That makes it a little bit more difficult for us to get into this house here. This is O'Reilly. I'm just imagining there are houses here, O'Reilly Street. I wish you have a map on O'Reilly Street. You don't have it, but you can see this is Center Street. This is the park. There is O'Reilly Street in here, all the way. Thank you. That is this one.
That one.
That is O'Reilly? Okay, so people will come. This is Cottage. They will come from the north side. They will come here, go back, go to Cottage. They will go back here, go to Osman, and they park. They get into this, and there is
Okay.
no parking on this side. You have
Okay.
to face upwards.
We need to
To the
call.
right side.
We need to call time on your comments. It's been 3 minutes, so I
Okay.
think I get the
So-
understanding of what you're communicating.
For the lighthouse, because they are so rich, if they really want to connect this one and this one, they might as well build a bridge.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
I got it.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to make a comment? Please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. This is Clyde Kemp, and I've been in the neighborhood for 45 years. In fact, I own half a Park Place.
Oh, your address?
38, 3 lots from 38 down to O'Reilly.
So your
And-
address is Park Place?
Yes.
Okay.
And I own an apartment building across that I'm not sure how they're going to do that because I'm the cornerstone of their project. And I don't want to stand in their way, but at the same time, I have a business there at 38 Park Place where it's licensed by the state of Michigan for mentally ill for the last 30 years. My thing is that we have 2 hospitals close to my facility, and if they block off Park Place and I have to go back, Hobie to Park Place, and I have to go back around and come around, in 2 minutes can be the death of anybody, not being able to access Woodward to go to McLaren or St. Joseph. Now, I don't know a lot about what they are trying to do, but being a godfather and a cornerstone, it seems like we need to sit down and talk about, first of all, where is this money's coming from? Is that a grant? And there are 3 sewage right next to me that's collapsed. In fact, mine's collapsing. Are you planning to do anything from the White House, the big house up on Woodward, other than buying the street and blocking us off? Are there any plans to help the community? But these are some questions that I need to know, and I should be at the table since, after all, I've been there 45 years, and like I said, I invested. And Ms. Sarah Redmond at the Lighthouse 30 years ago, I gave property, and I wanted them to come, but it seemed like I'm erased out. But somebody, can we talk? I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Beatrice Wright. I am a homeowner and taxpayer in the city of Pontiac, and I came down to support the homeowners and taxpayers who this affects. And I don't think you should take it lightly. You should, first of all, make sure that the people are represented. It is we the people. And I, too, think that Lighthouse does some marvelous things, but sometimes bureaucracy and growing lose sight of the citizens who you actually are there to serve. And so I want this to be looked at carefully, and I don't say it should be passed, because anytime you cut off a street for entrance or egress, you have affected the people. Again, my name is Beatrice Wright. I am a taxpayer in the city of Pontiac, and I'm supporting these gentlemen.
And what's your address for the record?
My address is 1268 Oak Lawn Drive. It is on the golf course, and I'm also coming to the Planning Commission so that I can learn more about the golf course. And I hope you have that information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I signed in right there. All right. My name's Jerry Lum, and I live at 12 Park Place. I just had, these houses, I don't know how to work this pointer. Okay, there we go.
Goes.
This house here on Park Place across the street from me, and this house has been empty for years. And are they gonna be tore down? They just built this one about 14 months ago. And but are they, excuse me, are those houses there gonna be tore down too? And that's gonna be the parking lot, all this here? Yeah, my house is right there, so. And I agree with Clyde too. I really don't want it to go to be done, because you won't be able to make this U-turn anymore. These people over here, well, they can, but they will have to go a long way around for ambulances, fire trucks, and whatnot. So I really don't think it's a good idea to do it either.
Thank you.
Do you want me to just circle my name?
Nope, it's there, it's there.
Okay, if no one else has any comments they would like to make, I am going to close public hearing. And what we'll do is we're going to aggregate the questions that were asked, and I will run them by our planning director. Any plans for any houses nearby that you're aware of, Mr. Yandrick?
I think I need clarification on the question. Any houses for this?
For this particular applicant, is there anything else that's inclusive in this plan that we haven't discussed?
So everything in their master plan is really on both sides of Hovey in this block. This is where their campus is. They have not presented anything north of Cottage, east of, not O'Reilly, but what's that? Center, thank you. South of Park Place or south of their existing headquarters.
Okay. There was a question brought up about the golf course. That's not part of this petition? And 2 houses being torn down on Park Place, that is not part of this petition?
That is not.
Okay. Okay, so what I'd like to do is I'd like to bring our applicant back up to the microphone for just a moment, if you wouldn't mind. Another question specifically was, one of the neighbors asked about meeting with the neighbors. So if that's something that has happened already, I'm not sure if you want to approach the podium as well. If you have information, please come and share.
Todd
Thank you.
Burke with Lighthouse.
Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Todd Burke with Lighthouse, 46156 Woodward, Pontiac.
Thank you.
Shannon Smith with Lighthouse, 46156 Woodward.
Great, thank you.
Yep. So in regards to meeting with the community, we'd be happy to meet with you. We've done 3 or 4 town halls and a community barbecue already, and had some general conversations and tried to answer many of the questions and whatnot. So we continue to do that, and we continue to knock doors and put out flyers and that type of thing. So after this, we'd be happy to give you my phone number or Shannon's phone number, and we can discuss a couple things, and I can try to answer any questions. So,
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Okay, so since we have everybody at the podium, I'm going to ask my fellow commissioners if they have some final questions before we take this to a vote. Renita, any questions?
Yeah, I do. How much traffic do you anticipate traveling through that area for your business specifically?
Through
Can you
Hovey
approach the
Street or-
podium?
I'm sorry, through Hovey Street or?
For this expansion, how much traffic do you anticipate?
Service-wise, do we have the traffic? Yeah.
I just want to know how many people are going to be affected by coming into the
In and
general
out?
neighborhood. Yeah.
I don't have that number offhand. I'd be happy to try to put together a budget number, but we're hoping with the Economic Resource Center and the social supermarket that the whole community can utilize those facilities. So we're hoping in that, and we believe that it is an asset to the community, so.
Right. And so it's not just for this particular area. You're going to be open to the whole city of Pontiac, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Then my other question is,
Ma'am, not to interrupt,
Go
but
ahead.
Steve had just told me what you're requesting will be in the traffic study.
Okay.
So we'll have those numbers here in the next few weeks for you.
okay. And so those interests and areas that are going to be kind of cut off to the community, have you kind of done a different type of workaround? Is that the only option? Where they're concerned about the traffic flowing and ending in the exits and entrances?
Yes, our thought was that essentially because Hovey services Lighthouse on both sides, and Center Street is a two-way street, Osmond Street's a two-way street, there's quite a bit of access from the south as well as from the east. And so the do-around is basically Center Street. Instead of going to Hovey and going south, you go to Center and go south. And it's maybe 700 feet more in your car. So it's not a significant amount.
Well, it seems
And it doesn't
significant to
really
them.
It doesn't really cut, I mean, unless you're pedestrian and you're walking everywhere, it might change things, but you could probably walk through the site easy enough. It's going to be open. We've provided a bit of a chicane on the what will be the parking drive in order to keep people from running through the site, because it will be a private site then. But you could certainly walk through the site easily enough, or bike through. So our thoughts is that, essentially there's enough two-way streets. I think Park Place is the only one that's boulevarded, but it does have two ways, essentially. So there is access from both directions.
Well, I like the services and I like what you're doing, but I am also concerned about the community and their concerns. So Unfortunately, this is not the only phase of this process, so it's going to be ongoing, and hopefully you'll get to meet them and talk to them and address and be receptive to their concerns and maybe make some additions if necessary. That's all I got.
Thank you. Michael?
I wanted to share for the residents and property owners in the impacted area, a few references were about how traffic could potentially, especially those coming from Woodward Avenue, how they'd be impacted. The city of Pontiac is working with the Michigan Department of Transportation, and this portion of Woodward Avenue will be completely reconfigured over the next few years. $30 million worth of investments are coming from the state of Michigan, so it'll be impacting the exact layout. So the Woodward Loop as we know it today will be a little less loopy and a little more Woodwardy. But we don't have those final schematics yet. That'll come in the next year plus to come, but I just want to share that because that could impact how easy it is to get to Cottage for north or southbound traffic and how easy it would be to get to Osmond for north or southbound traffic. So whether Hovey is closed or open, that won't be impacted by what's to come with Woodward, but you're raising the legitimate questions about flow of traffic, access, depending on the direction of vehicular traffic. So as we know it today with Woodward Avenue, that'll be changed, and that construction project will be happening in 2025 and 2026 for the entire Woodward Loop, and then Huron through downtown Pontiac as well. So I just want to make sure, if nothing else as an FYI, that the residents and property owners knew that, because it could impact and hopefully make more convenient, regardless of this outcome, more convenient for the residents and property owners, because it's a very unique little cluster of properties as well. But no further questions. They've been addressed at this evening's gathering and previous gatherings that I had otherwise. And I look forward to more detail coming from the different agencies and studies as it moves through the process.
Thank you. Tim?
Good point on the boulevarding. That will change what's going to happen. I think the only question I have is Hovey Street. Like for your clients and employees, do they still use that access, or do they have to drive all the way around the neighborhood to get into their space? So in other words, you're not blocking Hovey off. You're just turning it into a private kind of access and parking.
Correct.
So if I'm somebody working there, I don't have to drive down the neighborhood streets to get in. I can get in right at Hovey, where Hovey is.
You would be entering from,
If I'm coming from Cottage and I want to come into the property.
Could you take the microphone?
You could still enter the site in the business.
Could you step up to the microphone and answer the question?
I guess my
Please.
point is, so you're not
Sorry.
not dumping more traffic into the neighborhood. They're able to access it from the beginning, right?
Correct,
If that
correct.
makes
It would be
sense.
still access for parking. It'll be a drive instead of a road.
Okay.
It'll be a little narrower. It'll have parking on both sides, and it'll have some pedestrian crossings built
It's
into it.
walkable. If I'm a neighbor that lives south of that, I can, in theory, there's a walkable
Yes, yeah,
area
the
through
walks will continue through along what was the right-of-way on one side or the other, and east to west, the same situation.
Okay,
So,
good. Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
no real cutoff there.
Thank you.
Anything
That's all I
else?
have.
All set? Sue?
I appreciate Commissioner McGinnis's comments regarding the reconfiguration of the Woodward Loop. If I recall from the meetings that I was at, I believe the accessibility to Cottage Street is improved by the preliminary design that I saw with the Woodward Loop reconfiguration. I do have some concerns regarding the truck traffic. On your site plan in our package, it shows 2 semis there. And you're backing into loading docks, which is going to, Cottage Street isn't that wide. To back up a semi in there, it's not gonna, it takes time, it backs up traffic, and you only have really one entrance to the east. So if there's a semi in there backing up, I'm just concerned about the amount of traffic that's being diverted to Hovey Street. And also the hours of operation, because you have a significant addition of parking too, so I definitely hear the concerns of the people on Park Place. So those are my comments.
So to address the truck dock situation, they have, a large truck would be coming maybe once or twice a year for special deliveries. Most, a year. Most deliveries will be a 40-foot delivery truck or less. And they might be one or two sitting there at a time, but it'll be very infrequent. As far as hours, Lighthouse will have to address that. But we've discussed this also with fire and the access and turning radiuses and so forth will work for a full-size truck, but will happen very infrequently, maybe once or twice a year.
Thank you. And the hours for Lighthouse shall be? Do you know?
So we don't know what our new hours will be once everything is completed, but currently our pantry is open from 10 to 3.
Every
So-
day?
Every day. 3 days a week, I'm sorry.
Okay. Monday, Wednesday,
Monday,
Friday?
Wednesday, Friday.
Okay, great, thank you. Anything else, Sue? Okay, great. Christopher?
I guess in the absence of the traffic study, yeah, that's the only thing. Right now, when I initially looked at it, I saw that we had 3 streets that were running parallel to each other, Hovey, Central, and O'Reilly, that would intersect with Cottage. And that what we're in essence doing is removing the Hovey Street, but leaving Center Street and O'Reilly Street, which run parallel to each other and intersect with Cottage Street, open. And I guess I'm glad that you came down with your concerns because as I looked at the plans and just my own feel of being up in that area, I was saying no problem with Hovey. That was my initial feeling. But I think you've raised some other questions. The traffic study, I would hopefully put in a definitive answer as to just how much travel is going to be added. So I was saying I was initially looking at it and surveying the area, and I'm also a bicyclist, so I come through that area quite a bit coming to the City Hall area. I'll catch at Osmond and then take Osmond up Hovey and then come over to Park Place and then Park Place takes Park Place over to Center and then Center down the hill to the down the hill and across Auburn into the campus here. And so I just was not that sensitive to Hovey being a major thoroughfare. I just had not seen that much traffic in any of my travels and felt that the 2 parallel streets, Center and O'Reilly, which both intersect with Hovey, could handle any traffic. Plus, we have Osmond to the south that intersects Hovey, that any northbound traffic on Woodward would capture. Of course, southbound Woodward traffic would have to make that little turnaround that would then put them into go from southbound to northbound Woodward, and then they would have to turn on Cottage Street. But I was still looking at there being Center and O'Reilly available. And I guess I'm glad that you brought that up. I mean, it just didn't seem to be that much of an inconvenience. But, I mean, you live in the area. You live in the area. So kind of rambling, I'm not sure. I'm not sure at this time. From what I was seeing and feeling, I was saying, hey, no problem, until you brought these items up. So a little unsure at this time without the traffic study.
Yeah, sure.
As I look at your site plan, the lower right-hand corner of the site plan, basically your new parking, I don't know if you can see where I'm at right here. Is this meant to serve the three-story housing?
Yes, yes, that's essentially.
Could you approach the podium, please, so we can hear what you're saying? Thank you. That's okay.
Yeah, I wish we had the site plan available, but yes, that would service the housing essentially, and the child care center. We do have some existing family housing as well. The parking also that would occur on what was Hovey would also contribute to that side, or that east side of the parcel.
Okay.
Whereas the west end, the existing, mostly existing parking would pretty much work with what is there. We're adding just a small percentage on that end.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
If I may, I just want to be clear that we're not doing any sort of site plan approval at this time. We're just looking at the street vacation. The site plan will be reviewed and approved at a later date.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Looking at this request to vacate the street, Center Street is the alternate. If this does become vacated, Center Street becomes the north-south route off of Cottage to Park Place. And if Hovey becomes part of the Lighthouse property, then ultimately that southern part of Hovey, where it meets Park Place, it quiets the traffic there because it's no longer a through point. Although there will be some cars coming and going for the people that work at Lighthouse, it's not going to be the same amount of travel that it currently receives. So that actually can be a benefit for some of the people on Park Place, in my humble opinion. So I understand what the point is here. There's a lot of questions that are outstanding that the traffic study needs to define, but for what the needs are here, I'm not seeing that big of a hardship to have traffic go down approximately 500 to 700 feet to Center Street to become north and southbound off of Cottage. So that's my input. So would someone like to make a proposal?
And just a reminder that this need a resolution, and was passed out to each of the planning commission members.
Okay.
And a resolution is needed whether you recommend approval or recommend denial. And while this one in front of you is for approval, we can make, if you make a motion, we can make the necessary changes to incorporate that into your resolution.
Okay, and then ultimately this goes to City Council for their approval?
That is correct.
Okay, so this is not the
Yep.
last step, just so
Yep.
our neighbors know. You can still voice your opinion at City Council depending on how this vote goes.
And my, if I may.
Go ahead, please.
My concern is still that you haven't talked to enough of the community to speak to some of their concerns, because there's a number of people here who apparently have not had that conversation with you, and I would just like to wait until that happens. That's just my.
I'll make a motion if you want.
Yes, please.
Make a motion to recommend approval of the requested vacation of Hovey Street between Cottage Street and Park Place with the following conditions. Do we need to read all those? Lighthouse completing the traffic study with the city engineer approval prior to requesting final approval for the vacation from City Council. Lighthouse entering into a road vacation agreement with the city to govern the following items. A reverter clause shall be placed on the property that if the project presented in the master plan for the zoning map amendment is not substantially completed, within 3 years, the city has the option to dedicate this portion of Hovey Lane. B, a reverter clause shall be placed on the properties that if Lighthouse ever sells the property or properties, the city has the option to dedicate this portion of Hovey Lane.
Any support?
Support?
Roll call, please.
Support?
Javal?
I abstain.
McGinnis,
Yes to approve or to recommend approval.
Shepherd,
Yes to recommend approval?
Parlov,
Yes to recommend approval.
okay. Northcross,
Yes to recommend approval.
Sinclair.
Yes to recommend approval.
The motion passes 5-0. I think we still need a specific resolution, or a specific motion for the resolution, which is a little separate than this, if you don't mind procedurally approving that with the conditions that were laid out, Planning Commission approved.
How-
So you need this to be, could you please restate that so I'm clear what you need right now?
Okay. I think one of the things I should have clarified is that the motion needed to be for the resolution to be approved by Planning Commission. As stated by,
So the recommendation for approval of the vacation is not enough.
it needs to be a resolution per our municipal ordinance.
It would be recommendation of a resolution
Yep.
to approve, or a resolution for the.
Adopt,
The adopting of the resolution.
Okay.
The resolution that we have.
yep.
You want to try that again, Tim?
Can I just add that part?
Okay.
And if you could just add the two conditions mentioned with that, those can be added as well.
Okay, why don't you give me those words? Where are we at again? Resolution, or a recommendation to approve the resolution?
I guess it's
To adopt the resolution.
To adopt the resolution with the two conditions.
To adopt the resolution with the two conditions, he said.
I'm trying to read where you're at, but, okay, so, recommendation for the resolution to adopt the recommendations. What do we got for the vacation of with these two conditions?
Yes, is that what
Is
you
that where you
needed,
need to
right?
be, or
Is that the wording you need?
is that the wording
Mr.
you
Yarn?
need? Is that okay?
Andrew?
Sounds good.
And do I read these all over again?
If you just reference the two conditions, we're fine.
With these two conditions?
Yeah, so, is
Right, do we need a vote again?
there a second?
I'll second it.
Support? Okay.
I'll support it again.
All right. Duval,
I abstain.
McGinnis,
Yes to adopt the resolution.
Shepherd,
Yes to adopt the resolution.
Parlov,
Yes to adopt the resolution.
Northcross.
Yes to adopt the resolution.
Sinclair.
Yes to adopt the resolution.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
5-0,
Thank you.
one abstention.
All right, now we are going to go to our next item on public hearing, which is ZMA 23-003. It's the Michigan Legacy Credit Union. It's a zoning map amendment for 144 East Pike Street to request to take Civic Center to local business C1.
All right, so this is a parcel located right adjacent to the parking lot for this structure we're in right now. It's the Michigan Legacy Credit Union, located right over here to the north. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from CC Civic Center to C1 local business. The property appears to have been zoned Civic Center as part of the municipal complex that we're sitting in right now, but the applicant hopes to eventually sell the property, and the current CC Civic Center district only permits governmental uses. So in order to make their property marketable, we've advised them to rezone to C1 local business. This gives you an idea of where it's located. The big parking lot in the middle, that's City Hall, and then this is directly to the north. So you can see that big sea of purple there. That is the Civic Center zoning district. It is only found in this location in the city, and it only permits uses related to governmental work. Now you can see across the street to the north, it's zone C1, and then all of the downtown area, virtually all of the downtown area within the loop is zone C2. So commercial is relatively normal in this area. This is the existing site. I think this photo was taken last week. And then on the whole, just comparing the CC district to the C1 district, CC is intended solely for public services rendered by government. Permitted uses all require a special exception permit. So no matter what, if any change of use or any expansion occurs at this site, it has to come before this board, even if it's a very mundane change of use to something like retail. Permitted uses include federal, state, county offices, libraries, museums, cultural uses, and buildings erected for public nonprofit corporations. The C1 district, which is what they are requesting, is intended for local commercial, such as bakeries, banks, restaurants, funeral homes, learning centers, medical clinics, retail, community centers, and more. Permitted uses are allowed by right, and there's a few uses permitted by special exception. But overall, if it's just a general retail or kind of your basic commercial use, it's permitted by right. And then in terms of the difference for dimensional requirements, the Civic Center district, the only dimensional requirement placed on this district is a 50-foot cap for height. All the other dimensions in terms of front, side, or rear yard setback is determined by the Planning Commission when they come for their special exception permit. So you handle it on a case-by-case basis. It's very open-ended. Converting to the C1 district has very clear guidelines for what the dimensional requirements are. So there's a maximum of 35 feet, a front yard setback of 8 feet, and a rear yard setback of 20 feet. And then going through the standards for approval, Standard A, staff found that the master plan's future land use map classifies the subject property as mixed use. This classification is intended to create additional flexibility for mixed uses within zones and even within the same buildings and expand the areas where mixed use buildings and properties are by right uses. Approval of this rezoning will bring the parcel closer to the goals and intentions of the master plan by allowing for mixed uses on site. Standard B, staff found that the property is not located within a floodplain or wetland. The topography of the site is level, and there are no environmental features that would prohibit general commercial activity. The site currently operates as a municipal credit union with no physical, geological, hydrological, or environmental concerns. Standard C, staff found that under the current designation, the property is only permitted to be used for governmental purposes. This is extremely strict and only suitable for the city's municipal complex. Properties outside the municipal complex should be afforded a more permissive and flexible zoning district. D, the C1 local business is compatible with the subject parcel's general vicinity. There are parcels zoned C1 directly across Pike Street, and the downtown commercial district is 1 block to the east, and all the properties there are zoned C2. Standard E, staff found that the city's utilities and services are sufficient to accommodate the proposed uses. The site was previously used as a public school, was previously used as a credit union, and the utilities is designed to accommodate that sort of traffic. And Standard F, the site is currently operating as a credit union, and Pike Street is a neighborhood collector street, which is designed to accommodate large numbers of people. G, staff found that the applicant has only requested one parcel be rezoned. The request is reasonable and will not be disruptive to adjacent properties. H, the applicant worked with city staff to determine the appropriate zoning district for this property and the types of uses being proposed. The C1 zoning district was selected because it represents the least change necessary to permit the low intensity commercial uses proposed by the applicant. I, the applicant does not have a specific use in mind. Instead, they are requesting this rezoning to allow for the property to be sold to a non-governmental user. J, C1 local business is compatible with the neighborhood, which already contains parcels zoned C1 and C2, and for that reason, it will not be considered spot zoning. And with all that said, staff recommendation is to approve. Staff has had discussions with the applicant about conditions, but at this time, the applicant has not volunteered any conditions. So they're requesting a straight rezoning from Civic Center to local business.
Thank you very much for all of that information.
And Corey, if I could add, I don't know if you mentioned this in there, the city sold this property in 1963 to the credit union. But in doing research with Oakland County, there's no specific deed restrictions or anything like that with this property going forward. So we did that as part of our due diligence with this rezoning request. So.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that as well. Bernita, do you have any questions? I do not. Okay, Michael?
I look forward to hearing from the applicant and about what may come. As was alluded to, it initially was a part of the municipal complex. It was for the municipal employees with their credit union purposes. We recognize that it's much better to have a viable facility, even if it's repurposed, versus keeping it locked in the civic zoning and then it can never be repurposed, and if there's no other civic use that's anticipated. So I look forward to hearing more from the applicant. And I look forward to them sharing the current status of the building. I live very close to it. I live across the street, essentially. And so I see that it's still utilized to a degree. There's still some visitors, but not to the traffic that it was 10 years ago. So I'm interested to hear what's the scoop there. And we look forward to East Pike being transformed with the $16 million investment from the federal government to make a newly repaved and then a new walking and bike path to connect Clinton River Trail. So we want all parts of East Pike to be thriving and well-used, and vacant buildings ain't the good look we want. So we want it to be viable and thriving.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Tim?
What he said. No questions.
Okay, sounds good.
Well
Sue?
said.
No questions.
Christopher?
Well, this seems a bit different from other rezoning requests where the applicant is the person that's going to develop the property. And my concern here is that we don't know what the final use will be. And I think our applicant here has even stated that. It seems like this is a bit premature. I certainly like to see that piece of property developed, but at the same time, I'd like to do it with some understanding that the use really is appropriate to the zoning item that we're going to put in place. And that if there is an applicant, if there is somebody in mind, have that person be the one that makes the application for the rezoning. Because, and as we look at the old master plan, the last one in 2014, it still showed this piece of property as being a residential, still showed this property as being a civic center property. And across the street, which is now one of the parcels, a couple of the parcels are designated C1. In that master plan of 2014, we were showing that property as being, I think, a multifamily residential property, thinking that the intent was all along Pike Street. It might be residential property or something along that line. That master plan is out of date. It is out of date. I'm not sure exactly where we're going on Pike Street right now. And for that reason, I'm thinking, well, whoever's going to develop this property and buy this property, let them be the one to come before us. Now, I'm not saying that the applicant has to do that, but there could be a clause put into the purchase agreement that if that applicant can't get get the right type of zoning, then that deal would fall through. But right now, it seems like we're kind of putting the cart before the horse, not really knowing what's going to be there. C1 would also allow another $something store to be there. So, not that I'm saying we should hold back on C1 because there might be one, but I'm just saying it would be good that we have property that's been part of a civic trust for a number of years. It went from being ownership by the city to a nonprofit entity that serviced employees of the city. I think there's some intent and some past precedents there to say, yeah, we want this to be sure that this serves the city well. And can't really say that right now because we don't know what the next items coming down the road are.
Thank you for those thoughts. I don't have any questions at the moment, so I would like to bring the petitioner to the microphone, please. State your name and address for the record.
And you're going to want to turn the button on at the bottom right to turn the microphone on.
It's got a little face, a little head. There you go.
there we go.
There you go.
There, hopefully you can hear me now too. My name is Kermit Peters. I'm the president and CEO of Michigan Legacy Credit Union. Our address is 144 East Pike Street. And to address Vice Chairperson Norcross's question, We have had the property up for sale for at least 4 years, maybe 5. As financial institution services have changed, we're not seeing the volume, especially after COVID, that we saw in the past with people moving to digital services. I want to restate very importantly that we've been in the community for 76 years. We do not want to leave the community because while you don't see a lot of people coming in, the ones that you do see coming in are not eligible in many cases to open an account somewhere else. So philosophically, we do not want to leave the community because we know we would be forcing them to check cashing and payday lenders, and that just violates everything that we are as a financial cooperative. We did have a potential buyer that was a daycare, and they backed out because of the zoning, which we thought was a perfect fit for city people to have daycare right next door was absolutely wonderful. We are very particular about the purchasers that will buy the building, and every offer that I've had so far to date would include for us to get a 5-year lease back on the branch portion of the building so that we can continue to serve our members and owners while we find a 1-acre property in a very close proximity so that we don't lose the people in the neighborhood that walk to the branch. The other reason we're also very particular about the offers on the property is that in order for our bond and insurer to insure us as a financial institution, we have to be selective about the people that are within the same building that we are in. So, for example, anything slightly questionable like cannabis business would not go well with our bond carrier and therefore would not be a potential buyer for the credit union. That being said, I love your questions because I would love 1 acre close to the administration of the school that we could actually build a drive-through for the people that do drive to the credit union. That is not feasible on the property that we have. We have had a architect and planner look at it. We've looked at tearing down the building and building a smaller branch on that site, and it's just not financially feasible to do that. So this was the reason that we put the building up for sale to begin with. I do currently have 2 offers. One is civic use, and the other one is not, but it is an IT company, which would be someone we would be very interested in allowing to purchase the building. I hope I answered all of the questions.
I'm going to,
If I may.
please. Yes,
I'm not a real estate person. Is the prospect of the buyer having to rezone that odors, that it knocks out deals, or?
I am not sure who the daycare center talked to, but we also looked at a 5-year lease back with them also to help them build the business while they purchased the building and made renovations that they would be required for child care specific laws. But the time frame that it took, they wanted to open the business in September, and so they backed out based on the zoning.
Okay.
I don't know if that answers your question, or do you need more information?
Well, it does put some other dimensions into place that I had not considered as I was going through this. And I'm beginning to better understand your dilemma in terms of trying to get this property sold.
And they would have been our ideal candidate because they serve a population that could use financial education, and that's what we do best. So we were really kind of heartbroken when that deal fell apart because it really was a perfect fit and we were going to be partners.
And if I may add to the applicant's kind of some details, the childcare, we did state the process for rezoning, and they just opted to proceed. But when we're talking with applicants looking to develop in the city, we often encourage them to get a contingency, whether it's a lease or a sale, of either the rezoning getting approved or a site plan getting approved. And that really, or special exception, that really gives them the wherewithal to make sure that they're in a property that they're able to use. And I think that that's what the applicant's looking for the potential users of this site. And and I think it gives them the assurance to be able to purchase it as well. So.
It just seems like it's different from, well, it is different from what has been my experience before. Prior to this, I sat on the Pontiac School Board, and we sold Central Elementary School. I think at that time, the purchaser was going to be Common Ground. And they offered us $350,000 for it. And we said, hey, let's great and go. But the city council at the time said, look, I think it's more particular, it was especially the mayor at that time. The mayor at that time said, no, we don't want all those folks from Common Ground walking around downtown. He says, you'll never get it through my planning commission. I said, oh, wow. So we gave Common Ground their check back, and about 3 or 4 years later, I think we were able to sell that property for $150,000. And
that was December 1999, and there it sits still. So, as somebody who lives across the street from that, I'd have been cool with Common Ground versus a vacant building.
Yeah.
But that's a sidebar.
So, yeah, I guess we're sitting here saying, how do we promote the development of that property? And I guess one of the big things is I guess you are a nonprofit with members who do the voting and the whole thing. And okay, I understand the request now. Initially, it was saying, "Wow, man, that seems like putting the cart before the horse."
Yeah, our intention is to find a 1 acre property in close proximity, and our investment in that property will be $2 million.
Wow, that would seem like just down the street in what used to be that row of buildings. I don't even know if it's still standing. I think there was a restaurant there for a while. I don't think that's an acre. That's not an acre. Are you talking about Mill Street? No, I'm thinking to the east along Pike, across from the church. I think there were some buildings there. I still see it in my mind because I've been around for so long. I mean, they may have been torn down and they're not there anymore. Sure. Used to be, one time it was Andy Anderson, who used to have Anderson's Honda. He was starting out there. But I don't think that's an acre. Anyway, I digress.
Jim has a question.
I guess my question is, in my mind, is still, are we putting the cart before the horse? So I'll listen to the public hearing if there's anyone to talk on it, and my other fellow colleagues, and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you. Tim, you had a question?
Well, I think it's going to be very short and sweet. I see no disadvantage with changing it so they can market their property. I mean, I think the whole idea here is to make it marketable, that somebody actually comes in and does something instead of sitting there for another how many years. So I can see no disadvantage with, and I appreciate Mr. Northcroft's opinion. I just see the idea is now we can attract more people to that site versus being very limited to what we could ever put on that site. So thank you.
I have a question for staff. The way the parcel is zoned now, it's allowing this business to function as is, correct? There's nothing that forces them to change their zoning for what they're doing.
Right, so their current operations is a municipal operation or municipal adjacent.
Okay, all right. And for our applicant, is this an acre that it sits on currently? Is that what you're looking for size-wise again?
The property that it currently sits out, we've had our design firm look at completely tearing that building down and building a brand-new building. Unfortunately, the cost to be able to put a drive-through in, one, we can't situate the drive-through with correct, I'll look for your help because my design firm's not here, but access around the
Turn
drive-through, there
radius,
has to be
yeah.
so many feet to be able to do that. And then we have a problem with the elevation of the pitch of the property. So to make it flat to be able to do that, then the driveway would be too steep for people to enter in and would be dangerous. So that's the reason that property is just too big for us anymore. And so we want to find an acre close by where we can build that because we know that's what we can do it on with the proper layout of the topography.
Okay, so do you currently sit on an acre there now? Is it about that size, do you know?
Do you know what? I honestly am not sure. I would
Okay, all right. Well,
guess based on other properties, it would be close.
Okay, so as I'm looking at this, my thought is looking, bird's eye view looking down. If you're positioning like a island for the drive-through as opposed to attaching it to the building, is that something you've already considered to do
Yes.
something? Okay, all right. That answers my question. All right, I have no other questions at the moment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open public hearing. And if anyone has any questions, please approach the podium. State your name and address for the record. You will have 3 minutes to share any comments or if you have any questions. And it doesn't look like people are rushing the podium, so I'm going to close public hearing. Okay, so now back to my fellow commissioners. Renita, any final questions?
Well, more of a comment. I'm happy to know that you're going to stay in operation because I know that bank services a great number of people, and I'd rather see you relocate, do something like that, redevelop, than to absolve completely. So I'm happy to hear that you're looking for options, and I'm happy to be here to help in that as we move forward.
Thank you. Michael?
That's it.
I do have some hesitancy about the impact and value regarding the Civic Center overall and the redevelopment of the property. So if you were able to pull up the aerial view once more of the parcels. So it probably is just a little under an acre if I'm guessing. But it's very strategically placed based upon its proximity to the fire station across the street, the sheriff's substation next door, and essentially bounding the parking lot of this city hall where we sit now, and kitty corner from what's being renovated, but one of the larger school buildings of the public school district. So it's on our Civic Center campus that, in all honesty and all candor, we have not well packaged, presented. We could do a much greater job as a community to make it a show place, at least a place where the community comes together. We have got the resurfaced parking lot. Hill Street has been resurfaced. Obviously, we spoke to the progress that's coming to Pike Street, to Woodward Avenue. I would encourage the applicant, and it won't impact my recommendation vote tonight, but I do recommend either through the planning division or through other entity that you engage with the mayor and the city's leadership, because I am not speaking in an official way. I'm just saying that there's a possibility that they might have some space utilization, that it may be able to be repurposed for a civic use still yet. And I don't say that with any inside information. I'm just saying that it's better to have the conversation on the front end. That the frontage on Pike Street makes it where it could, of course, be a very functional C1 zoning purpose, but it is very close in proximity to the Civic Center campus. It is part of it's sort of embedded in the Civic Center campus, not as much as it probably was in the 1960s. Looks like there's a little more division in the parking lot now, and that's just been done even more so. But I just want us to consider that there may be another lease on life for it being a civic center use. There are some worst case scenarios that could to Commissioner Shepherd's point, I could see some pretty unpleasant scenarios where not fitting into the image or the functionality that we'd want for our civic center to have a commercial operation that was a dud. If it's meeting the zoning, we are in no position to try and vet or screen, or I do feel good that the credit union are going to be able to help vet and screen, but we, the people of Pontiac, we're changing up the zoning, which means that we are foregoing the opportunity to be the gatekeeper on that. So it just gives me pause. It's not to the point where I'm unwilling to. It just is something that I want to see us look at thoroughly, because it's a unique opportunity for us to have a new chapter on our civic center, and I'm not sure what their other uses may be for other, government agencies, nonprofit organizations that have a civic or municipal purpose. There could be some very dynamic ways in which we make this work really well for all the residents of Pontiac, and make, when they're doing business at our city facilities, they can do even more business related to those civic functions. So I want progress. I would just want it to be strategic progress. Mm-hmm. So I'm still willing to have the conversation continue for the city council to hear more. But I just wanted to raise that for staff and the applicant, that, there could still be other adaptive reuses that would still meet the current civic center zoning. Doesn't mean it can't change. It just is something we want to consider, because it does make the most dense and compact sense that if there was going to be a new civic use or municipal function or facility needed, that it be right there. That makes the most sense. Thank you.
If I may, real quick, I just want a point of clarification in case I wasn't clear in my report. But the civic center, the uses permitted in the civic center, every single one of them is also permitted in the C1. So approval of this rezoning would not mean that they cannot do anything they currently can do. We would only be expanding the uses permitted on site.
Oh, thank you for that. Tim, anything more?
No further comments.
Sue?
No comments.
And Christopher?
No further questions.
In hearing what Christopher has said, as well as Mike, and knowing that we had a petitioner that successfully was granted usage across the street, it was the old printing shop?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think he's doing something with cars in there. Is he in there? And Pike Street having the money that's been set aside for its improvement, which we're all thrilled about, and potentially Oakland County coming in and bringing more people in to our downtown area. If that just is a gem of a spot, I'm just surprised you've not had a successful potential purchaser yet.
So Oakland County was looking at it, and they spent quite a bit of money looking at the property. I'm not really sure what happened. I also received a call from Deborah last week, and so she, it was right before she left for the holiday weekend, and I am going to be talking to her, because there is nothing more we would love than to be able to work out something with the city, if the city can use the property and we can find alternative close by. That is a win-win for everybody, especially when members are so used to it being right on the government property. So I am going to be calling her tomorrow to find out what's happening. That just happened, so that's kind of fresh developments.
Great. Well, fingers crossed for that. Yeah. Right? My concern is, I echo what Christopher is saying, is the unknown of what could potentially be there. And I know you've got your checklist of an appropriate buyer for what you need to have in order for your business to continue to function there too. But there's some things that have been approved in this city that shouldn't be where they are, because it's not the right place for some of these businesses, but they're there. So that's the one thing that makes me go, but I'm sympathetic to what you're trying to do. So those are my thoughts. So I will take a motion.
I just want to
Go
provide
ahead.
context. So when
Yes.
she's referencing Deborah, I imagine she means the city's economic development manager. So she's saying a city of Pontiac representative has recently reached out. And to your question, Oakland County was trying to pursue having county facilities in or near downtown Pontiac. They still are pursuing that, but they found a bigger target to pursue. They are in a purchase agreement for the 2 former General Motors office buildings, the Ottawa Towers that are near the Phoenix Center. So that's why they maybe stopped coming a calling.
They ghosted her. Okay, so would someone like to make a motion on this?
I'll try it. I move to recommend approval of the proposed rezoning of 144 East Pike Street from C Civic Center to C1 Local Business based on the findings of fact identified in the staff report.
Support.
Roll call.
Northcross.
No to deny approval.
Shepherd.
Yes to approve.
Javal.
Yes to approve.
Sinclair.
Yes to approve.
Harlow.
I'm on the bubble, but I'm going to say yes to approve because I know you're going to get a really great buyer for us.
McGinnis.
No to deny approval, in part because I know there's already been a 4-vote majority, so I'm not the one killing the opportunity, but just want to express my concerns with my vote. No.
The motion passes 4-2, and then I'll just let the applicant know, we're going to be probably in conversations before this gets to city council, and so I'll talk to Deborah first, and then we'll talk to see if there's anything associated with this property. Okay. Thank you.
Thank
you,
you.
ma'am.
Thank you for being a good neighbor.
Yes. Yes.
Sorry, what's your first name again?
Irma? Karma.
CARMA.
Thank you.
I just saw the C and I just wondered what it was. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, we believe in karma, don't we?
All right, so we are ready to head now to any old business.
We have no old business this evening.
All right, so we've got some new business. There is application number ZMA 23-009, Jason Ayer, a zoning map amendment. It's an information session for 1075 East Walton Boulevard. The request is to go from a one-family dwelling R1 zoning to local business C1 zoning.
So Corey has this staff report, and I will let him do it. The one thing I wanted to say is this: we just received this application. We had met with the applicant about a week ago, and this will be heard in a public hearing at the August meeting. While we don't take every rezoning to an informational session to Planning Commission, we thought this was an important for fact-finding tonight. So, this is not a site plan. This is really just a rezoning request. At this time, it's a straight rezoning. If there are some considerations that you have that the applicant should maybe consider for conditions, I think that can be discussed, or anything that you think that the staff should be providing as part of this analysis next month, you can also bring that up too. So thank you very much. Corey's got this presentation.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so the applicant is proposing a rezoning at the intersection of Giddings and Walton Boulevard. There's already a commercial complex at this corner. The applicant is requesting to convert the northwest side of the intersection from R1 residential to C1 commercial, and there are 4 parcels in total. So over here, this gives you an idea of the 4 parcels in question. They're currently vacant and highly vegetated. I don't know, I haven't dug into it, but I don't know if a house used to be located here.
There's one house on Walton, but it's vacant.
Yep, so there's one empty house here. I wasn't sure about this parcel. But overall, these are the 4 parcels at the intersection of Giddings and Walton. And then the applicant owns the Carnival Market located here, the entire complex. And they're looking to do a similar, smaller operation over on this side. This shows the current zoning. So where the market is currently located is already zoned C1, local business for that operation. This side of Giddings is all R1 residential. It's for single family. Across the street is R1A, which is just a slightly modified R1 district. And then back here is R1B, another modification of the R1 district. But overall, it's a residential area. So the differences between the R1 and the C1 zoning. R1 is primarily for single-family homes and a few community uses such as cemeteries, community centers, schools, or religious institutions. C1, however, is intended for local commercial, such as bakeries, banks, restaurants, funeral homes, learning centers, medical clinics, retail, community centers, grocery stores, anything you can think of that's kind of a general low-intensity commercial type use. There are a few uses permitted by special exception. I took some photographs today. So this is from the intersection looking northwest at the property. And this is further down the sidewalk looking northeast. Across the street there is, you can barely make it out, but that's where the Carnival Market and kind of strip mall development is located. And that is it for my presentation. Again, this is just an informational session, so we're not actually making a motion. This is just to provide feedback to the applicant before they come back next month.
And the one thing I wanted to add for Planning Commission is this request is 4 acres and just 4+ acres here. This is slightly smaller than the adjacent property that this applicant owns for the Carnival Market, so.
Very good, thank you for that. I would love to have the applicant approach the microphone and state your name and address for the record. And we want to hear all about what you want to do there.
Sure. My name is Jason Ayar. The address is 1101 East Walton Boulevard. And as they stated, we own the whole shopping center that sits there. We've owned it for about 12 years. The property has been there for about 15. We were not the original developers, but we purchased it afterwards. We were a tenant first, now we're the owners. We also just put a brand new restaurant in the same complex called Dogwoods, so we own both of those businesses.
Tim just was there
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about it this morning.
I'll save those comments.
Yeah, and I actually
So
was
we
there
have,
for my
we have like a
birthday.
significant investment in the city. You can go to our property anytime you want, go into our restaurant, go into our store. We do premium stuff. You know, we take care of what we're supposed to do. We try to do everything the right way. And in owning that property, it's completely leased. There is 1,600 square feet that's still empty. We've left it empty on purpose, only because we put the restaurant there. The empty space is next to it. It looks like we're going to be using it for that because business is pretty good there, and there's a need. So in owning it over the last 12 years, like I said, we always get a lot of people call our broker. We need space. We need X amount of space. And being there for 12 years, we've gotten to know the area. In front of us is Notre Dame, which is the largest private school in Oakland County. Behind us, a half a mile, is just that huge automotive industrial park, or I don't know what you guys, but there's a ton of automotive back there. So all those customers from both, aside from local, kind of come to our center. And there's always a need for more. Like, for example, it could use another restaurant. Someone driving by that doesn't know the area might be like, well, this is good enough. But we're there. Obviously, standing here, it's going to be a significant investment. I would not put that investment if I did not feel we would get a return on it. I would like to see, not just because that's truly my home, more than my home, because I'm there all the time, but all the dollars that are, everyone has to have lunch that works there. Notre Dame, they walk to our school. The kids that's how much they feel safe. They do field trips. They're on our property all day long when they're at school. And I would just like to keep those dollars on that corner versus they come pick up their kids from school and say, let's go to eat somewhere else, or let's go here. The more we can keep those dollars on our corner, the better it is for everybody. So that's why we feel there's a need. I understand it's residential. I know there's houses around it. There's houses around our property, but it's a busy corner. There's 36,000 cars that pass that corner every day on that major. So it's truly a busy corner, and not just because we're developing it, not just because we're there, but there is a need for more retail development, which in return I feel would possibly increase the residential, because whatever we put there, it's gonna, after all the business, maybe 100 more jobs, you know? So they gotta live somewhere near there. So when the person that bought it, we kept in contact with him, and he reached out to me. I've been back and forth with him for the last few years, because we kind of wanted it back then, but he had it under contract before us. So he reached out to me a couple weeks ago, and I said, sounds good. We got it under contract. I went to the planning commission and said, hi, this is what I want to do. What do you guys think? And overall, I think if you look at it as a whole, it's a good thing for that corner. It's not just, something like, I don't know if we want that. Overall, it's really good for the city, really good for us, and really good for the people that are around that area. You can drive. Have you guys ever been to our shopping center?
Oh, many times.
I'm not 100% accurate, but I would say it's one of the nicest centers in the whole city.
I would concur.
Been to our store. I can argue the same comment. If you go to our restaurant, I can definitely make that same argument. And we plan on doing something like that next door.
Wonderful. I have to ask, wasn't there, the person that you bought it from, they had tried to develop that corner? They came in front of us, didn't they?
Yeah, I believe they were trying to put like some kind of senior citizen and memory care.
Mm-hmm.
They told me they found another property that they're going after.
Oh, okay.
How accurate is that? I don't really know. That's just what they told me.
Mm-hmm.
They said they decided to move on, and they're not interested in it anymore.
I remember having conversations about that corner when we were here on the planning commission.
So when he reached out to me, I said, we could turn it into something good. Let me find out.
Great. Do you have any questions for Nita?
Yeah, I was just saying, when we were mentioning that Tim was there today, I was there for my birthday,
happy
on May
birthday.
13th. And so I met Oscar, I think that was his name.
That's our partner there.
Yep. And so it was a great time. I had about 20 or 30 people there, and we had a blast. So it was really nice.
The mayor, he's been there quite a few times. I've seen him there.
Good food.
He comes there. Yeah.
And so what type of restaurant? I don't know that we need another Coney Island, but what type of restaurant?
There was a Coney Island there.
Yeah, I know.
Now
Exactly.
Now it's not there.
Yeah, I love Dogwoods, and I'd like to see something as comparable, maybe smaller, but just very nice.
If we were to develop that property, it's not going to develop overnight. I would say it's a 2-year project. By the time you go through all the hurdles that project demands, and I would say for sure it could be like another restaurant like Dogwoods, a different concept, but once again, the idea is the dollars are there on that corner. We'd love to capture them rather than them going somewhere else. Our restaurant is great, but there's just a need for more stuff.
Right.
Like we have a dental office in our center now. He's 2,400 square feet. He just called me last week. I need a bigger space.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I like that. I like it a lot.
He would, he's definitely a possibility to move across the street. He wants to double the space. And they're called Destiny Dental. They have 20 locations. They had 25. They just sold 5. When we signed them up, we were their 15th location. They're in a few states. Very strong company, and,
Yeah.
when he tells me I want more space, I know he's serious.
Yeah, actually almost in walking distance. I'm right at Galloway Lake
Oh, okay,
Estates
yeah,
over
I know
there.
that. I
So
know where you
yeah,
are.
yeah. So,
Mhm.
and a lot of my neighbors come there as well.
Yes,
So yeah,
yeah.
you got a good spot, and you've got a lot of good
Mhm.
amenities. So
Yes,
keep it
yes.
up. And the carnival market is great too. A lot of people go
Yes.
there for tacos and all
Yep,
of that, the good
exactly,
food.
yep.
It's very authentic. So
Yes,
keep
it's
doing what
Oakland
you're doing.
County's largest Hispanic supermarket.
Yep, I like it.
Michael?
Well, good evening. I just want to say on behalf of all of our 61,000 residents of Pontiac, thank you
Oh, you got
for your continued commitment to Pontiac and your investment and enhancements, because as you've heard, I've been very well received, and it's very visible. That location that we're talking about this evening, very high profile in terms of eyeballs, thousands of people that pass by daily. I am very comfortable from this going from R1 to C1. It makes sense that it's local commercial based upon the major corridor, commercial corridor of Walton Boulevard. For any future, looking well down the road for any future site plan, I'd be looking forward, especially to make sure there's ample screening and protection from the remaining residential properties.
absolutely.
So that way the Giddings Road, Walton Boulevard residents, and even those, there's a bit of space in terms of the Northfield Avenue parcels, beautiful large parcels, the backyards that they have on the south side of East Northfield. But that's something that's really important, that whenever we have that buffer, that meeting of commercial to residential, we want to make sure that we've learned from the stumbles from the generations past, where it was shoehorn all the industrial and commercial and everywhere we can, and it sometimes is right on top of residential and vice versa. So we want to create something that's harmonious for the residents, harmonious for your business, employees, and patrons. But I can tell you that it would be a massive win for Pontiac, Michigan, to have this vacant commercial corner to be thriving, to be beautiful, to be elevated, to be activated, employing people, providing services and amenities, and a destination. As you mentioned, it's extremely strategic. The location is superb in terms of the residential nearby, the school destination across the street. We're very close to many, many other populations, meaning it's very easy for folks from Lake Orion or Rochester Hills or Auburn Hills to get to.
That's a major artery for Oakland County. The amount of people and where they live there's a lot on that corner. And why not keep them there?
Yeah. And it's going to matter, just to that very point, it's going to matter, and this is not necessarily something that's required, but you'll win even continued celebration from your neighbors and the residents if you're thinking of that in the terms of basically the curb appeal. When people are driving along Walton, we want it to be beautiful. And we know that there are some pockets right now that aren't, but can with some effort and some strategy, including in this parcel as well. So it's obviously wooded, but it is a little, little fringy, a little rough. So it's certainly lovely to have green space there, but if it's developed, I'm looking forward to it being elevated in terms of the structure, but also the landscaping and layout, so that way it's
It'll be
really,
just
really
as nice
powerful.
or nicer than what we already have there. Because I occupy a big space. My family and I, we live, breathe, and eat out of that place. I would not make it. Yeah.
You're not trying to go down, are you?
No, not at all.
You're not trying to downgrade. I appreciate that.
So not too many questions, obviously. I apologize for going off on a tangent. I just truly want to say thank you on behalf of the Pontiac residents, and we look forward to what's possible. I think it makes sense that these parcels, as we've done elsewhere on Walton Boulevard in the last year and a half, taking what had been residential, and it's a bit of an outlier now, and making it more appropriately zoned commercial. Thank you.
Thank you. Tim?
So I was there today for the first time. So I walked in, got
like
a
it?
menu at Dogwoods.
Yeah. I
and-
created half that menu.
What's that? Yeah.
I created half that
Yeah, and
menu.
whoever was standing there was great.
Yes.
And I asked him how long you've been there, because I didn't know it's been there. It's only a couple months. So,
Yes.
So first of all, if you can bring that kind of quality to the new center,
Yeah.
it's what we want, right?
Yeah.
There's not a lot of people bringing that level. And then I went to your market because I needed a bottle of water.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, and I've never been into your market.
Okay.
And I felt like I had walked into a kind of a tropical,
Yeah.
I don't want to call it a tropical paradise, but got a piece of chicken.
Yep.
I normally don't eat before these meetings, right? And I had a great piece of chicken.
Okay.
I enjoyed it.
bring
I
any
was going to
for
get
us?
chips and salsa, and because
Yeah.
I'm,
Just had lunch at the restaurant?
I had, no, I didn't have lunch there. I didn't get to eat there because I didn't have time. It was 5 o'clock. So,
Oh,
but
I saw you outside.
maybe.
You had the menu in your hand and you
I
took
did.
a picture of it.
Yep,
And
I did.
I didn't tell you I was the owner.
Oh,
but
you're
I
the
told
guy that
you
walked by and
they
said
have
great
good
food?
there. And you're like, yeah.
Good marketing.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. So that
I
was,
speak to everybody.
it was really interesting because
Yeah.
that's now a market that I will go to. The
Yes.
restaurant, I literally
Yeah.
texted my fiance.
Yeah,
and said,
yeah,
hey,
I saw you in the parking lot.
we got to
I
go.
spoke to you.
We got to go check this restaurant out because it's we have great restaurants in Pontiac, but we don't have that. And you also have that school across the street, which
Yes.
you know where the clients come from.
Exactly.
And if you can keep them in Pontiac for just a few minutes longer, because
Yeah,
most of them just
exactly.
come in, drop their kids off, and get the heck out.
Yes.
And if we can keep them a little longer,
Yeah, that's
you
what
know
we're trying
who
to
goes
do.
there.
Yeah.
And because they come into your market.
Absolutely.
So very excited to see what you're doing. Look forward to it. I mean, I think what you're going to see from us is bring us good quality.
You got it.
So, I think we're a pretty good council when somebody, or planning commission, when somebody brings us something great. If it's not great, we're probably not the easiest to deal with.
Yes.
So bring us that. And also, is there a line of Auburn Hills? I saw the sign in front of your building. Are
There's
you
a
part,
what?
Are you part in Auburn Hills?
No. Auburn Hills is like half a mile where the 7-Eleven is.
It's that far.
That's Auburn Hills.
Why did they have a
Because then the
sign?
apartment starts. Those are all Pontiac.
Okay.
It's almost just like that little 7-Eleven, I believe. And then it goes like a little bit behind us. That subdivision behind us, that's all Pontiac. That's where then Auburn Hills starts
That's
right
where
after
the
that.
border is. Okay.
It's almost like Pontiac took a bite out of Auburn Hills, that area.
Well, keep it up. I used to be your neighbor. I used to live on Woodlawn. I just noticed your streets.
Oh, you were?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I still own the house.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I don't live there anymore.
Oh, you don't?
Long story. Anyway, so thank you. Thank you for everything.
Yeah.
So keep it up.
Actually, I honestly, when I saw the name, my house was Dan Butler's house. He was on the.
We'll talk about that one later.
Oh, okay.
'Cause,
I want to hear that.
yeah, no, that's awesome. Small world.
No comments.
Christopher.
Yes, I remember at least 2 other proposals coming before the Planning Commission over the past 6 years. One was a residential facility, and I think prior to that, it was going to be a medical retail type facility.
Yeah, that was same owners.
Same.
I believe
Same
it was same
owners?
owners.
Yes.
They tried for one thing first, and then they changed their mind. I'm not 100%, but I believe it was the same owners, because when he first bought it, he told me he was going to do medical retail.
Yeah, and I think in both instances, the Planning Commission gave a nod, a recommendation that they
Yes.
be approved. I think the biggest concern I had was with the paving over of all of that, what is now grass area. And I think one of the proposals actually had the storm runoff calculations done. There's a neighbor to the very west, I believe, along Walton, that would be just the other side of that wooded area. And he's always voiced some concerns about being flooded out. Right now, I think he's able to make it, but aside from those, I agree with you. It is a great area, and I also want to say thank you. Back during the pandemic, during 2020, the city was just pulling its hair out as to how are we going to get out and engage folks to have them sign up for the census.
Yeah, we did
And
that.
I think you offered
Yes.
that area
Yes, I
there
did.
became a very, very productive area
Yes.
for us to engage folks. There are a number of apartments and other buildings around there that people who are just coming to the
We
city.
also did COVID clinics.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
The restaurant was closed. We let them use that outdoor dining. They were coming getting shots every week.
Yeah, so you've been very, very supportive of the growth of the city.
Yes.
And I heard Mr. McGinnis talk about 61,000. I says, yeah, that was because we were able to count the people. Thank you.
That's good.
Thank you.
Well put.
No other questions. Yeah.
Thank you. We had Commissioner Lucy Payne, who I believe they held their district meetings at the restaurant.
Yes.
So again, you've been such a good neighbor for a very long time. Was that your restaurant from before?
Originally, it was Nico's.
Yeah.
We owned the property.
Okay.
So he left during COVID.
Okay.
That's, like he said, that's another
Yes.
story.
Yes. Right.
But yeah, he left.
Okay.
And we were looking. I love to do business. You know, it's in my blood. I like creating jobs. I don't do it just for money. That's just almost like the bonus. God has already blessed me with enough. I really don't need any more. I'm just a simple guy, but I love creating business. I love employing people, and I love talking to people. So that's how I am. And he was a good guy, but we did not own it. When he left, we wanted to do it instantly. I didn't have the manpower at the time. Oscar came. I knew him for a long time. He was a chef, and he's like, let's do this. Okay, come on, let's do it.
Gotcha.
And just like that, Dogwoods was born.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for expanding what you had started.
Yes.
And I know you've done such a nice job with all the properties on that corner that you own. So I look forward to the next adventure on the opposite side of the street. I'm excited to hear what you'll bring forward for us to consider. And I wish you great success. And I can't wait to have Tim's engagement party at Dogwood. Congratulations on your engagement. You kind of snuck that in, my fiance. I heard that. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep, you got it.
All right, so we are done with that little bit of new business.
She had her comment.
I'm sorry, who had a comment?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that. I just want to make sure everybody got.
She was good. All right, so now we're going to the public comment section of our meeting. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the podium to public comment. I think we've got someone here who would like to say something. And you'll have 3 minutes to state whatever you'd like to talk about. Please state your name and address for the record. Public comment is open.
Before you start the clock, may my comments include questions that you will answer?
I don't know. We'll take your questions and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Again, my name is Beatrice Wright, and I am a resident of the city of Pontiac. I was educated in Pontiac. I attended Oakland University, Wayne State University, Siena Heights University, among others. But I have a grave concern about the Pontiac Golf Course, which is currently known as the Links of Crystal Lake. It is not a links golf course. That just tells you what they knew about golf, which was very little. I want to know how well this planning commission knows the master plan. And I want to know if someone could put the master plan up on the board there, if that's possible. You can just say yes or no. That's all I want, so that they could see it. But I want to know how well you know the master plan. I want to know why I live on the single dwelling home section of the golf course. And the entrance to the single dwelling homes on the golf course is zoned C3. I want to know why those homes are zoned Z3. I did ask Mr. Glass, who was formerly a member of this commission. He did not know why. I want to know why the golf course is zoned R1, the entire golf course. I want to know why Bedette Park is zoned R1, as well as Murphy Park zoned R1. I want someone with some history. I asked Mr. Northcross to answer that question for me some time ago, and he told me that What he could gather was perhaps it's because it's surrounded by R1. So the golf course surrounded by the homes that run along Bagley, Murphy Park, surrounded by homes that run along Martin Luther King, Badet Park, surrounded by homes that are in Indian Village, perhaps. So those are my questions because I think it is very important that we give business people a sound idea of what our master plan is. I get the impression that they have another plan for my community. And I also want to know where you stand on those issues. As a community representative, I want to know if you love our golf course or you would just as soon have it be more homes. I want to know that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments this evening. Okay, I am going to close what is public comment at the podium. And what I'd like to do is, we'll circle back around to Beatrice's questions. Sue, do you have any comments for the evening? Okay. Christopher, anything you want to bring up?
A couple of items, and this addresses Ms. Wright. One, my understanding is that our parks are all zoned R1, and that the golf course for a number of years was owned by the city and was therefore R1. Now, if we look at the current zoning ordinance, we'll see that parks run across a number of categories. They could conceivably be a number of categories. Again, my speculation was that the intent, number of years ago, as the park systems were being set up in Pontiac, were to have parks accessible to different residential areas. And the R1 connotation was to protect them from any other types of incursions on the parks that would detract from them being parks and places of relaxation for the residents. In terms of the master plan, you know, you have a little bit of schizophrenia here going. No, I shouldn't say schizophrenia. But, we have the master plan, which was done in 2014, and it included a number of things. I think it was about 85 recommendations that were to the city council was asked to incorporate. Well, I don't think all 85. Some the planning commission had to do, but the actual zoning changes would be that of the city council. Most of those recommendations have to date have not been approved. The current zoning plan, which is the last word, really does not reflect all of the changes of the 2014, does not reflect many of the changes that were suggested in 2014. The carryovers from 2012 and 2008, I think, were big changes in the actual zoning ordinance. So when we say, how well do we know the master plan? Well, we can know the master plan very well. But at the same time, one also has to know the current zoning ordinances. And then we also have the other item is that our master plan is, what, how many years? I think it's at least 2 years, 3 years overdue for an update. And there have been a number of very significant changes that have happened in Pontiac. So
let me say this, because her questions, I understand they're very specific, and I don't think that as the commission we can necessarily answer all the questions. But what I would suggest is if we can have you list your questions and we will submit them to the planning department and then they can address them. because we really don't have the capacity to answer everything you've asked.
If I could
Okay,
make a quick-
and then
I-
we've got,
I did
and now,
want-
stop. I need everybody to stop for a moment, please. Public comment is closed in the audience. So with all of the questions that were asked, I think it's more appropriate for those questions to be written out so that they can be answered. Where we can start is with the planning department. If we can't get your answers there, then we'll go to the next location in order for you to get the answers you need. What I wanted to do was to find out if you had anything else that you wanted to add. Sometimes you have things that are happening in the community that sometimes you want to
No,
bring up.
I just wanted to make that point about the master plan being overdue. And
Yes,
that
it is
we need to
overdue.
get started.
Yes, that's true. Okay, Tim, any questions or anything to add?
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I'm going to just touch on one thing. We have nothing in front of us to the audience. There's nothing on the table right now. When something comes to the table, you'll have a voice. Okay? No one's brought anything to us. You would know. It's public information. We're not hiding anything. We hear people talk about it, but we don't have anything in front of us. So we can't really answer your question. We don't know what's going to happen. So that's all I have for you. That's all I
Mike.
have. I don't have any other comments about
Great.
this.
Mike, any general comments?
Which means you don't want a golf course comment.
If you want to talk about a golf course that you're dreaming about, go for it.
One thing I'm going to research from my historical society hat is that why there are some C3 sections, and I anticipate it's because of what was on the land before in that instance. So I'll research to see if there was any, heavy use, heavy commercial, or even what we today might consider industrial use, because there was, over 100 years of use of the land with different purposes. Commissioner Northcross spoke to the parks. You invoked Murphy Park, but yeah, every park in Pontiac is R1 right now. And every school or former school, that de facto, even though in all intents and purposes it's not a single-family residential, that's just the zoning, across the board that happened for all schools in Pontiac. They're zoned R1. And that's likely, to his point, to try and to minimize the development around them because they want it to be very limited or light use. And that would be the same for a municipal park and likely a municipal golf course as well. But there's still more research to be done there. But yeah, so every school and also every church is zoned R1 as well. Although, of course, some churches could be is there something where a church could be C1 or something?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But so oftentimes, though, churches that have been around for a long time, though, their zoning is often R1 in our community as well. Seems like it was a default, probably when they were doing some zoning updates decades and decades ago. That's how it was handled. The City Council has taken up a number of items related to the Planning, Commission, but it's so hard to keep track. There's just so much change. I gave an update last month. I can't remember if there's anything new. There hasn't been in the last few weeks any new rezoning. There will be a first and a second reading respectively at our tomorrow meeting, our July 6th meeting. So at next month's meeting, I should have an update on what verdicts were rendered based upon the Planning Commission's recommendations.
Great, thank
Hope
you.
everyone had a safe holiday, and thanks for everyone for making time tonight.
Yes, thank you. Bernita, anything?
No, I just, thank you.
Put your microphone on.
I'm sorry. Thank you for your interest. I applaud you for wanting to know those questions, and I think this is the good place for everybody to learn more. And so I applaud that effort, and I'm just glad to be on this commission. I think you all are doing a wonderful job, as well as bringing information to the community that's necessary. So
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. And I applaud my fellow commissioners as well. I have nothing to add as far as information. So I would like to know for staff communications.
Is there?
Staff communications, do you have anything for us?
We do have some staff communications. 1461 Baldwin rezoning is scheduled next Tuesday. That is second reading. That would be for Leafco, which is at the northwest corner of Baldwin, and Walton, which is the parking lot there. The first reading for 31 North Astor is scheduled also for next Tuesday. This has been removed from the agenda by City Council. We have now a condition of approval related to he cannot start construction of the new site, any greenfield development, until the existing school, there's certain square footages that are not just start construction, but actually the occupancy is achieved before he can start construction, with the exception of foundational work. So he could do site grading, he could do foundational work, but cannot start any vertical construction until that happens. So that is being considered by City Council next week. In an effort to just be efficient with taxpayer dollars, if you notice, we do not have a court reporter tonight. For the past month, we are starting to take our own minutes. So we've been getting transcripts, as you noticed. You will see at next month's minutes for this meeting that it's going to be a lot more concise, really summarizing all the comments made by Planning Commission members, applicants, public, and staff. Hopefully in a readable, format that's really best practices for planning commissions, not just Pontiac, but around the country. So, and the court reporter services was very helpful while staff was lean, but now that we have more staff, it makes sense. I do want to share some upcoming things to look forward to. We are working on a master plan process right now. And our first step is really an RFQ. So some point, possibly at the end of this month, there will be a presentation to City Council. Not an action, just a presentation. And then after that, I anticipate hopefully at the August meeting, I can give a very similar presentation to Planning Commission. So we still need to work some things out. I'm working with MEDC on some items. I'm working with the county. That's just a timeline we will share when there's a little bit more detail. The zoning map, if you guys know, it has not been updated, and we've had to do research on projects. Justin Curry from our office has been doing a lot of research. He's getting started with NGIS to make updates to the map itself. It's going to take a few weeks. I anticipate in September that we are going to take it to Planning Commission, seek a recommendation, and take it to City Council. The process of why we're doing this is not that we're changing anyone's zoning district. It is that we are establishing, with the best resources and powers that we have and all the rezonings that have taken place since the last known update that we have that was made in 2016, that this is a reflection of what our existing zoning districts are. It is absolutely an opportunity for property owners in the city, if they want to contest what the zoning is. We would need proof that it was actually adopted by City Council, but we really are setting up a public process to reestablish that zoning map. And we will have a PDF map. We are also going to have a web map. Our goal is you can click on a property, get the zoning district, just as simple as that. So I just wanted to share that should be upcoming. And one of the things with the existing master plan is, as of today, the city does have as a soft launch of our new webpage. So I apologize, where I normally go to get it, it's in a different location, and I wasn't able to pull that up in short order. But there's just a few small things on the back end being fixed, but you will notice over the next week, it hopefully should be a lot more user-friendly for you, and a lot of the pages being redesigned to share the necessary information for applicants and the public and businesses that may be doing city services. So that is it.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No. Thank
Okay.
you for your hard work, gentlemen.
Okay.
Appreciate it. And thank you for our audience participation. Thank you to my commissioners for a beautiful meeting. And I would like a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor? Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, is that your total?